You know, it's interesting. I feel like we've collaborated since day one, living life as art. It's sort of like a daily collaboration of coming together, whether we're cooking or we're creating something beautiful around the home. Roberto straight away started editing my work when we came together.
Hello and welcome to Separate Bathrooms. We would like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of this land, and pay our respects to elders both past and present. My name is Cameron Daddo. This is my wife, Elle Daddo.
I'm glad you said Ali. I thought you were going to do Alison Daddo. Because you said yours with such power, your name.
Did I?
You did.
Okay, I'm getting behind myself. I'm backing myself today.
Good on you.
Hey,
you do it.
Honey, we've had a few books come across our kitchen table. Some stay there. Some make it to the bathroom, figuratively and literally. Now, when I say bathroom, I don't mean to be flushed. I mean, in my case, for a fuller and deeper investigation.
Exactly. Be Here Now is the book that Cam is referring to. It's written by acclaimed artist, best-selling author, and passionate wellness advocate, and boy, is she passionate, Meredith Gaston Masnata. This book is stunning for so many reasons, which we will go into a bit today. But the one that's really worth mentioning is that she has collaborated with her husband, Roberto. And his photography is what also is so much of the beauty of this book. And he is also joining us for the chat.
Let's not keep him outside any longer. Welcome, Meredith and Roberto. Welcome, Meredith and Roberto, to the bathroom. It's great to see you both.
It's wonderful to be in the bathroom. Thank you both for having us.
Yes.
We keep it clean.
That's good.
Your language doesn't need to be.
Oh, I like that. That's a good tagline. Honey.
Okay.
We'll use that
It
again.
just magic comes sometimes. Hey, we need some backstory. We need some context here. How did you guys meet?
Oh, wow. Well, a few years ago, I used to rent a little part of my property. Or actually not rent it, Airbnb it. And generally, I never got to meet anyone that came to stay. You have the key code and just come and go, and even the dog wasn't interested. And this one day though, speaking of the dog, I was just heading home from having been on a dog walk with him, and we're heading up our stairs. And our property has a lot of steps. There are about 90 steps to the top of the house from the street level. We were about halfway up, and I heard a car doing a bit of because we're at a dead end, doing a few turns, and I looked down, and just as I looked down, I could see this lady wind her window down and look at me and say, "Roberto." And the most incredible thing, we locked eyes, and even though it was about easy 20, 30 metres away, it was like we were just inches away.
No.
There was this sense of recognition.
Oh.
And it's like, I know you, but how do I know you? And I made my way down, and lo and behold, Meredith was looking to find a park, because she was staying the night. But I'll let Meredith elaborate a bit more on that.
Yeah, take it
because
from
the
there,
reasons why
Meredith.
she was
Oh,
coming.
my goodness. Wow.
Good beginning. I love it.
Oh, I'm feeling all the feelings again. I'm in
Yeah.
my seat. It's the hot seat. That is absolutely exactly what happened. I had to give a talk in Brisbane, and I was at the time living on the Sunshine Coast, and friends said, Monday morning, don't drive down. Why don't you go and find an Airbnb, relax on Sunday night? And so I was looking for an Airbnb in very, very close to the location at which I was going to be talking. But the only Airbnb that would come up was Roberto's. Like, I somehow couldn't click off it. It was just the most bizarre
Which
kind of
is nowhere
glitch
near
in the
where she needed to
system.
be.
It was nowhere near where I was talking.
Right.
It wasn't even in the zone. And I was at it was a
Maybe
very
in the Twilight Zone.
spontaneous,
Yeah.
in the Twilight Zone. It was a somewhat spontaneous booking, I think, the night before. And I just thought, I'm just going to take it because this property looks beautiful. It was a garden house that looked tasteful and comfortable. And I thought, this is actually going to be just right for me, even though it's going to be a bit of a drive. So anyway, I packed my little basket with what I needed, and I drove down on the Sunday afternoon. And I had, at the time I was single, and I'd come out of a very long-term relationship of 13 years, and I imagined that I was going to be by myself, and I was okay with that because I really enjoy my own company. I just knew that I have a lot of love to give, and so part of me, deep inside, I was hoping to be met spiritually and intellectually and physically by a wonderful man, and I've always been ready to love. There was nothing withholding in me. There was nothing unready, but I just didn't expect it, so to speak. Anyway, I arrived at this this Airbnb, this wonderful, big, topsy-turvy old Queenslander by Brisbane River, and I'd seen that Roberto was called Roberto because it was on his listing, and I used to live in Italy and speak the language fluently, and I assumed he was Italian, and I saw his profile picture that was of him in, I think it was in Korea with a ferret on his shoulder. So I knew that he was a somewhat eccentric man.
Everyone does it there.
After my own heart.
I'm sure.
Don't you all have a profile picture with a ferret?
We're going with it.
So I thought this is certainly someone I'd like to, I hope I get the chance to meet him. But it was a very sort of fleeting thought that I had. And as Roberto said, he never met his guests. And so fortuitously that day, it was just serendipitous timing. He was coming home. I called out his name. And one of the first things you said to me, Amore, was, how do you know how to say my name correctly? And that's when I said, well, I was assuming you were Italian, and I pronounced it the Italian way. And by that time, he'd made his way to, like he said, the car window. And, I don't think there are even words for this kind of recognition. I think people who have had the privilege of feeling it will know it, but it is an instant knowingness of a person that is so profound and completely unequivocally right, with no hesitation. A complete comfort, a complete sense of peace. And it's been like that since day one. And it continues to just evolve as a great love. I will say that I first sensed Roberto's presence as a child, which as I was only 6 or 7 years old, and I felt a certain quality of love. And now I recognise what that is. I actually thought he was an angel. And now, all these years later, I recognise that love.
She knows better.
I know better. I recognise that love.
Earthly angels.
Yeah, I think so. And I know that this was waiting for me. And the journeys of life that we've both had to arrive at this point have been tremendous and have prepared us for one another. And we have a very richly creative life where we share our dreams and philosophies and our ideas, and very much a pace of life, a dream of life. And when we married, we had a little engraved into Roberto's wedding ring is our little motto, which is Due cuore un sogno. In Italiano vuol dire 2 hearts, 1 dream. And it's important to us because we're such individuals, but we share a dream, and each day we build on that, we grow that dream. And this creative dream has really culminated and been expressed in our first book together. And Roberto is the most amazing photographer. He's the last person to tell you that because he's so modest. He doesn't even know how good he is. That's one of his most beautiful qualities, really, because he just does what he does so for the love of it, and his work is exquisite, and it was really the foundation for the creation of this book concept and also the visual language of the book. It's the first time I have departed from my typical style of writing and illustrating my own work to actually sharing a collaborative creative process in which photography has now become such an essential part of bringing a message forward.
Oh, Meredith. I could hear you. I could just listen to you talk all day about your love between the two of you. We could end the podcast.
Alison's all
here.
misty, by the
And
way. If you can't, she's got very glassy eyes right now. It's gorgeous.
That was just, I mean, it was, that was just such a gorgeous love story. And I mean, that's just the big, I just love that.
We only just met at the car window.
Well, I mean, and I always think about that because we always ask that question of couples, how did you two meet? And it's just such an incredible story for most people, because it's like if you hadn't have caught that plane, or if you hadn't have done this, or if that hadn't have happened, there's so many variables that could have changed where you might not have met that person. And I just love that there's that universal force that went, no, these two need to be together. So this is the Airbnb you're going to. Roberto, you need to be walking up the stairs at the correct time. I mean, it's all of that comes together. It's just, that's the magic of love. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah, see, you weren't factoring the Roberto zone. Well, you had a work zone, but there was a Roberto zone.
Yes. It was a trap that
It was happening.
Let's just say it far exceeded my expectations. He received a positive review, and shortly thereafter, his Airbnb was effectively shut down because it's become my studio space where I paint and write and draw, and so it's.
How long has it been? How long has it been since you met and you're married? And how long have you been together?
It's been about 3 years since we've met, and we were married in February last year.
We eloped to Tasmania.
Oh, nice.
Well done. Can I ask you?
In the wilderness.
Can I ask you? If we were in the wilderness, then this is probably not the right picture for it. But there's a gorgeous picture of you two at the back of the book. Obviously taken by a pal. I don't think it was a selfie sort of thing. Sharing a kiss on the hood of an early model Porsche, right?
That's our little baby.
That's yours. I mean, does that? That's so indicative. It's just like, wow, this sums up these two.
That's us.
There you are. Roberto, you're in your coloured socks. Meredith, you look gorgeous, and you're both just lost in this moment, kissing on one of the coolest cars in the world. And it's clearly a Porsche rally because there's other Porsches lined up against it.
Well, it was the Distinguished Gentleman's Rally. So,
wow, I need to go to that.
It was in support of Movember.
In support of Movember.
Yes,
So your car had to be pre-1980.
Yep.
And it was just, I mean, the thing about that car is that we are in it all the time. Especially, it is my daily driver, and it's the way to go. It's just they built them so well. They just drive beautifully.
And he drives it so well. It takes quite a bit of effort to drive that car. It's not you get in and go. The air conditioning, the air conditioning is comprised of two fickle windows that open when they decide to at the front of the car.
I love it.
And we just have a wonderful time in that car.
It's important to outrun the fumes as well.
19 what? 60 what?
64.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one of the last of that model, which is the original Porsche model.
Yeah.
And they just got it right from the beginning.
And the wonderful thing about cars of that vintage, one thing I particularly like is that you can sit very, very close together. Not like in today's big cars. It's like it's like in the old movies. You're really side by side, and it's fun. It's just gorgeous.
It is fun. It's such a cute car that it puts a smile on people's faces whenever we drive, because it's not trying to be anything. It's just this quirky little car that you don't expect amongst all the blobs of today, homogenous looking cars, and there we are.
Well, there you two are.
Has a gigantic hat.
And you two you two are a really stunning couple.
Oh,
and
likewise.
So looking at you guys, well, thank you. Yeah.
Meredith, looking at your Instagram, obviously, people often put their best foot forward on Instagram, but your Instagram, it comes across, you genuinely feel like you are living in your truly creative, poetry-filled, wonderful life. Have you always been that way? And how do we get some of what you have? What's the key?
Well, firstly, that
Read
is
the books.
Read the books. There you go.
Firstly, thank you for acknowledging that. I've always been completely sincere, and one of my greatest values is integrity and being true to myself. And in answer to one of your questions, I've always been this way. I was a very creative child, very sensitive, very spiritual. Actually, I was raised in in the Catholic faith, and I used to spend a lot of time just sitting in the church, either by myself or with my grandmother, or actually when we had this conversation one night over dinner, and we couldn't believe it. At a young age, I wanted to be a nun and Roberto wanted to be a priest. So our lives could have really been quite different.
Yeah.
And maybe we would have met in the monastery and broken all the rules. Who knows?
You've been the first.
Yeah, but in any case, I think along with integrity, I would say that gratitude is so foundational for me in daily life. Many years ago, I wrote a book called The Art of Gratitude, and that really encapsulated my belief in and passion for grateful living. I don't think it's just a buzzword. I experience it as a way of life, and I believe that gratitude really is the open door to joy and abundance. And a lot of what we've covered in this book in so many different ways has to do with really experiencing life with a grateful heart through grateful eyes. When we're appreciative of all that we have, we're suddenly so much richer. When we, count our blessings and really realise that which we have. And I sincerely believe that is what makes me such a happy person. Obviously, everyone has their day and their days when they're not feeling so fantastic. I will say that I've never been so sensitively and intuitively supported in my life than I am now by Roberto on a daily basis, whether that's with work or anything actually that is going on in my life. We talk very freely with each other. Often no words are required. It's just sort of a sensitivity to the energy of the day, the feeling, what we're going through, either together or separately. So that's tremendously, obviously supportive of my well-being and my happiness, my joy. I've always felt as if I've lived, and I know I have lived a magical life. As a child, I was very much aware of magic all around me, and I used to speak freely about that with my mum. We'd be waiting at the bus stop for the bus to come in the morning, and she'd be dressed up ready to go to work, and I would be feeling the magic in the trees and the flowers all around, and just feeling, that might sound esoteric, and especially for children, are so awake and so alive to this magic, this unspoken sort of subtle magic of the universe. And I still feel very attuned to that as a growing up person. I haven't lost that love of life in a way that is, to me, it's just this effervescence that I continue to keep my eyes and my heart open to, and it's inspiring. And we share that love. Roberto loves nature, and I think that's captured in his photography. A lot of the themes of his work are very natural themes. We've been out a lot in the forests and by the ocean and in our own garden, and this book is really an ode photographically in many respects, and also in terms of the conceptual framework. It's an ode to joyous living inspired by nature. So sharing that love of the earth is also really exciting, because we go out on a lot of expeditions, sometimes in the little Porsche and other times in a more responsible vehicle, depending on the topography.
I'm struck by when you talk about the spoken and the unspoken aspect between you two. Roberto, did you even need to ask Meredith to get married, or did Meredith already know that you were going to ask her?
Meredith was definitely not expecting it at the time.
Love a surprise.
Yes, I do recall having a conversation with my amore Meredith that in the car, whether marriage still meant something to her, and she said yes, and that was really special for me, because it did for me as well. So it was a surprise to her, and actually I had not intended at the time even to ask. It felt like we were always together anyway. It was not quite relevant, but there's a magic to being married.
Yes, there is.
And I'm glad you said yes.
Roberto, clearly you remind me of like that, the real Renaissance man. Also, clearly you're in your creative life as well, which I'm sure is what has drawn you to each other. Have you always been that way? And what are your tips? Definitely not. Really?
If I could only show you my my recently expired driver's license, it would have shown a very, very different person.
Really? Were you a corporate lawyer or something? Or
He was.
Close. Close.
He was
I
a
did work
security
in-
guy at the local bank.
That's it. You can tell by my pecs. Tax law, of all the things.
Wow.
Tax law. Look, I have always been quite a... Well, I can't say always been, but when I decided to, many, many years ago, when I wanted to go to university, I had finished high school. I thought I was going to be a rock star, so university was the last thing
He was a bass
on my
player.
mind.
Well done.
Bass
Yeah,
player.
yeah, that takes a lot to hold down a bass part.
Yeah.
I understand that. Very important.
So a lack of talent clearly showed that there was no way I was ever going to be a rock star, and also a real, disliking for staying up late at night. So that
And that's
not going to
still
work
the
for me.
case.
It's still the case.
Yeah.
So I decided I wanted to go to uni, but all I wanted to do was actually learn Sanskrit. I was into Hindu mythology or spirituality, and I wanted to really read it for myself, and did that for quite some time, and then realised, you know what? Well, I can see, what am I going to do? Be a lecturer or be at uni for the rest of my life? No, I can't do that. So the practical person came out in me and said, well, my wife, previous wife, had just finished law. I said, why don't I study law, and we could just start our own little practice. I didn't want to be the big corporate lawyer. I just thought a nice little practice together, that would do me. Within a couple of weeks of starting that degree, I thought, my goodness, these people are very different to the arts people.
Yeah.
It was cutthroat. It was paperwork, important information just being hidden whenever there was an assignment and things like that, and just I did not relate. But anyway, I got through it, but I knew I didn't want to be a lawyer. And in the meantime, children came along, and both Karen, my previous wife, and I always knew that one of us wanted to stay home and make sure that we both weren't having the busy life. So I was Mr. Mum for a very, very long time. Very long time indeed. And by the time they both got to primary school, I thought I'd dip my toes back in, see what I could do. I really thought I would be lucky to get a cleaning job because I didn't have any experience. Sure, I had a law degree, but I hadn't actually done any work. I managed to wrangle my way through an interview, and I got into a role that ultimately ended up being in tax law. I did it because there was a need, but it certainly didn't float my boat. And a few years ago, after so my previous wife, she had cancer, passed away. I kept trying to be the Mr. Mum and also work and in that field, and managed to do that for quite some time. But then things started to really unravel. I felt my identity had just gone. Once I lost Karen, I felt like I was a bit of a fraud in this sort of corporate world, just because it was never really me anyway. Yeah. And I took a break. I thought I'd just take a little break. And it was about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago now. But what I did do in that time was pick up a camera, and I found it so therapeutic. When I'm looking through that viewfinder and it's just me and what I'm looking at, suddenly everything, my sadness of the past and my fear of the future were gone. I was just in the present moment. And it was, and when I take photos, I'm always looking for something. I think I've got a bit of a gentle nature, and that kind of comes through. I look for the most gentle part, not really knowingly, but that seems to be what happens. And I take my photos, and it helped me tremendously. And things have just gone on from there.
Wow.
The photographs are gorgeous, and Meredith, you write of being inspired by Roberto's photos and seeing life through different eyes.
Yes.
At what point did you guys, I loved that you wrote that. At what point did you guys decide, well, maybe we could collaborate?
It's interesting. I feel like We've collaborated since day one in even as living life as art. It's sort of like a daily collaboration of coming together, whether we're cooking or we're creating something beautiful around the home. Roberto straight away started editing my work when we came together. His spelling and grammar, I mean, he's extraordinary. He's very clever, and I love that he's able to edit my work because he understands what I'm trying to say too, and it's really lovely having that understanding and then my work in safe hands. And I think it's safe to say that it's mainly you touch very little of what I do. It's just
the way Meredith writes is incredible. She will, it's all in her head. It's all in her head, and when it's ready to be downloaded, she'll just sit and it comes out, no draft, and it is perfect.
Wow.
A few grammatical errors.
I've learned a lot about M dashes since we've been together. An M dash and an N dash and a semicolon and oopsie doo. But yeah,
I've never seen anything like it. The way she does it, just it's all there.
I feel. Thank you, Amore. I think second to that, I will say I feel very aided by the fact that a lot of this sort of it feels like it's downloaded from heaven.
Yeah.
The words are just, they flow. It's effortless. I've never struggled with writing. I've never laboured over writing. I've never second guessed what I've written. I very rarely take a second take, and that makes it a really pleasant, really free experience for me. I certainly do think a lot before I put pen to paper or fingers to keyboard. I kind of let ideas marinate and grow and blossom and take shape. And then when I'm ready to write, like Roberto said, it's right there. So I've had conversations with fellow authors and they've expressed the sort of trials and tribulations of the author life. And I've always felt very thankful that I simply can't relate to that painful experience of writing. To me, writing is like for Roberto photographing things of beauty is therapeutic for him. Writing is therapeutic for me. And in the collaborative sense too, the conversations that we have are really important. So something will come to mind. A lot of this book really is about humanity. It's about reverence for life, appreciation of life. It's about love, inspiration. It's about self-reflection, being our truest selves, stepping into ourselves in the fullest sense with faith and, with confidence, with self-love and respect. And so these are conversations that we share at home about human behaviour, about how are we wired, not just the two of us, but how we observe human nature and popular culture and socio-cultural themes are of interest to us both. We talk them through. And so it's wonderful to have a sounding board for these concepts because we can have really bright, open conversations that help me to grow my ideas too. So, and then after all of that, we'll just go into the kitchen and cook an amazing dinner. So, it's sort of that too is a creative art. And so I see the whole of life as this shared experience that is very, very creative. And in fact, the way I see creativity is an expression of love in anything and everything that we do. So some people say some people will say to me, but I'm not a creative person. Well, we are crafted of creative energy. We are creativity in motion. We are born into this life. As children, we don't question this. We're unbridled. We express ourselves. As we grow up, we become a little bit more concerned about maybe the way others will experience us or judge us. Or, I think what's so important in a conversation about creativity is an awareness that it's our daily gift to experience as human beings. Certainly embodying and expressing our creativity. I know it brings both of us immense joy in daily life. And I'm so happy to see when I looked at Roberto made mention of his old driver's license photograph, and he struggled with that license because he's beyond recognition. And not only in terms of this glorious beard and this, wonderful head of hair, it's more than that. It's actually something in his eyes. in his eyes, in the photograph on that old license, is a hardness and a sadness, and I think he would probably say too, maybe a brokenness. And I look in his eyes now, and they're dancing, they're alive. He's so healthy and full of life and vitality, and we take care of each other. And to me, creativity is such an important part of our holistic well-being. I think people underestimate that. There's a lot of conversation in the world of well-being about green juices and activewear, and to me, these very foundational, aspirational values and daily practices of well-being, self-kindness, self-compassion, rest, relaxation, movement. These are it's a bigger picture, and that's what I've been writing and drawing about for very happily for the past 18 years. I was so fortunate to fall into the world of books, and I found a wonderful home there to share these ideas with others. And I said to Roberto yesterday, my greatest hope is I do carry a very optimistic and hopeful vision for our collective well-being as human beings, for peace and for joy. I don't ever give up on that, and in all that I do in my daily life and in my books is certainly with a vision for our collective health and happiness in every possible way. And I've always believed that it begins with us. So when we take care of ourselves, we are not only setting an example for those with whom we share our life, but also the joy and the peace that we cultivate is a shared energy that then goes out to soften and illuminate others with whom we're spending our time. And so self-care and these kinds of concepts, they're not selfish, they're essential. And, it really does, it begins with us. This book is, Be Here Now. There's a lot in this book that speaks to the individual, but also the message that is overarching is that it's not just about us as individuals anymore. It's very much about us as communities, as families, as a shared humanity, as a shared world, coming together to reprioritise that which matters to us. We're living in a very fast-paced material world, a very, in many respects, superficial world. So many people find themselves wondering, what is wrong with me? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling flat? Why am I feeling dissatisfied? Many years ago, I heard the term a sense of spiritual bankruptcy. People can be so rich in aspects of their lives, and yet they can feel so impoverished spiritually. And I think what we, both of us, and certainly when I asked Roberto, why did you choose to study Sanskrit? That's a most unusual course to take, and surely there were not very many people enrolled, which he verified. But he said it was because he was interested in the concept of God within, and that he found that fascinating in his exploration of Hinduism, and that he wasn't satisfied just reading translations of the texts, that he wanted to read them in their, original language. And I was so moved by that because it not only spoke to me of somebody with great attention to detail and care, but also just before we met, I wrote a book called At Home Within. And that book was about finding heaven within ourselves rather than looking outwardly all the time for peace, for joy, for satisfaction. And so we were very much aligned with these interests and passions. This was all sort of, as you've mentioned, about fate and serendipity. This was all very much right there before I wound the window down that day and saw Roberto in person. So these kind of these crossovers, these shared passions have helped us to just come together effortlessly. It was like when we started together, it was like it had already begun a long time ago. Yeah.
What one of the things I love about the book is that it is hardcover. It's good for the coffee table,
Yes.
and it's a good one to pick up and turn to a random page, and just read that random page. One, Roberto, your photography is gorgeous. You can just meditate on your photographs. But some of your topics there, Meredith, At Home Within, Effort, Feet Up, Journey On, they're just beautiful subjects that you make sound so actionable and achievable.
And
that's what I love about
That's
it.
what Meredith does.
Yeah, and to add to that, because I was thinking as you were talking as well, it doesn't cost you anything. Like, this is not a book that you need to be wealthy to achieve everything in it. It is just, it's that, and that's what I really love. Like, you talk about daydreaming. Daydreaming costs you nothing, but the way you describe it is just, going into that, and taking a break from what is this, as you say, incredibly fast-paced world. And that's a real gift to understand that.
Yeah, and it's like, I can do that.
I can do that.
I can do that, and I can just do this little morsel. Like, I don't have to sit down and read 30 pages and, get through stuff. It's just that little couple of paragraphs there. Look at your beautiful drawings, which they're stunning.
Oh, stunning.
And as I said, the photographs are great, and then just the thought biscuits that you float out there for us.
I love a biscuit.
Yeah, so do I. Ali makes great biscuits. but just those little thought cookies that come out, and you're just like, oh yeah, I can latch onto that, and I can hang with this for 20 minutes. Take a break from whatever it is.
Yes.
Tax accounting or whatever it is, tax law. It's really basically, yes, you've made it achievable and accessible and in a beautiful package, and it's wonderful.
Thank you so much. Well, one of my favourite things to say, and I say it all the time, is that it's not complicated.
Right.
I think Roberto loves it when I say it too. It's like, it's not complicated. I think sometimes some of our greatest angst and our stress comes from complicating and overcomplicating.
Yeah.
This book really speaks to and I'm so grateful you've brought this forward. It speaks to what's achievable, what's realistic, what's approachable, applicable. It's so relevant to each and every one of us. And just one, and I love that too, this was very intentional with the creation of this book, that just one page at a time, if that's how you wish to do it, and certainly to meditate on the photographs because they are so immersive. They're so meditative, they're so sumptuous. But if people get excited and they want to read on, then it's there for the taking, it's there to be enjoyed. And many times I find that readers will read something once and then they'll read it again a week, a month, a year later, and they'll read it differently. They'll feel it differently. They'll know it differently. And so these books become like resources that are at best enjoyed close at hand. It's like a coffee table or a bedside table book that you can just dip into and feel good. The other day I went out to run an errand and I came home and Roberto was sitting there with our book and he was reading it and he said, I started reading this 20 minutes ago. And I feel so much better, just having spent 20 minutes with it. And for him to say that was really wonderful because he's actually read it all before and he knows it. But I think it's just the energy of the book. It's a feel-good book and it's meant to soothe the spirit, to inspire. I think it's been a tremendously unusual and difficult few years as well, emerging from COVID and as a planet. And I think many people are seeking comfort and joy and inspiration and strength. There are passages in this book on resilience. There are passages on reverence, on gratitude, on observation, and these pieces of writing, they're powerful and they are transformative, but they are always gentle. It's not as if anybody's pointing a finger here and saying do this, do that. These books are so inviting. This book especially, it welcomes the reader in, and I think the most beautiful and the best situation with a book like this is that the reader makes it their own, and then through lived experience, through changed thought, through actioning of new ideas, that they improve their quality of life. And that's certainly our wish for readers.
Roberto, what did you learn about sort of yourself and each other creating this book?
That we are just completely aligned. What I've learnt, what I learn every day from Meredith and what I've learnt from her right from the start is that and as you can tell, she is an incredibly special person, special human being, and she's just an amazing example of just how good humanity could be. And there's nothing pretentious, there's nothing fake, and as you were talking about her Instagram account earlier, it's real. It's her, and I'm constantly learning from her, and I've learnt to be more to accept myself, because Meredith is a gentle person, but there's so much love emanating from her that you feel you can just be yourself. You drop all the guards. You get rid of all the corporate nonsense. The padded jackets and the shoulder pads and all that sort of stuff, and be you, which is what Meredith is asking people to do. And with this book, a lot of this is, there are ancient wisdoms in this, but the way Meredith writes it down, and it makes it so accessible, and an individual can pick this up and be the change that they want to see in the world. And the more people who do that, how great is this world going to be?
It takes a measure of confidence to be you, to be who we are. Meredith, what do you say to that?
I would agree with that. I would agree that it takes confidence. It's the most wonderful feeling.
How would you instill confidence in someone to be themselves?
This is such an excellent question. I'm just thinking off the top of my head here as I speak. I feel like confidence is it's something that you work your way toward by cultivating other aspects of self first. So Roberto spoke about self-acceptance. That's just so important. Self-acceptance comes through self-compassion, which is just identifying that we can be so quick to be compassionate toward other people, their foibles, their shortcomings, their vulnerabilities. We're very hard on ourselves. And so self-compassion is foundational. So I'm going to talk about building confidence, but building it up through a few different channels so that you can reach confidence, because it's not just confidence we're working on. Confidence, to my mind, is an amalgamation of a few different things that kind of come first. So starting with self-acceptance, self-compassion. Self-love seems like a very big word for many people. They just think, it would be egotistical or vain for me to love myself. And yet self-love has nothing to do with vanity or pride. Self-love is self-respect, so honouring the self. Positive communication with the self, positive self-talk is so essential. Again, I touch on that through all of my books. Communicating with the self with an inner voice that is kind, that is supportive. We are with ourselves for life. This is what I say. We keep ourselves company for life. So we may as well keep ourselves in good company. Can you imagine keeping company with somebody who is constantly berating you and putting you down and doubting you and questioning you? It would break you down. So we must take responsibility for taking care of ourselves, not breaking ourselves down with internal dialogue and thoughts that are just self-deprecating, self-destructive. This is our personal responsibility. Nobody can do it for us. So when we resource ourselves with really positive material, I endeavour to provide resources through my books, but I too have been inspired by many writers and philosophers over time whose messages, as Roberto said, are timeless. Ancient wisdom comes through. I'm certainly not saying that these concepts are my own. I'm delighted to have been able to bring them forward with a certain flavour and hopefully a sort of a tone that is relatable and that is welcoming for readers. But again, this is not new. So we're coming back to self-compassion, self-acceptance, self-love, and really understanding the value of that, and starting with how we speak to ourselves, how we think about ourselves. This is malleable. This is not set in stone. Sometimes we get so fixed as people. We pigeonhole ourselves. We put ourselves in a box. We are so expansive. We are constantly growing and changing and evolving. And when we respect and appreciate that about ourselves, we can then actually grow with ourselves. We can grow into different iterations, different, chapters of our life. Like we've spoken today about different chapters of our own lives, and we continue to grow in this present moment, experiencing life to the fullest. So rather than set ourselves, hold ourselves back to a certain picture or image or idea of ourselves that we may have been in the past or we may be right now, that we actually set ourselves free to be all that we can be. And so I think as we start to practice these behaviours, we grow in self-confidence, because the more that we love and care about ourselves, the more worthwhile and we see life to be, the more worthy we feel as human beings. And with that sense of self-worth comes a sense of valuing ourselves and our lives. And then I think with these kinds of on this trajectory comes a greater sense of confidence in ourselves, confidence in life. And then with that, of course, comes freedom and joy, because to be ourselves is the ultimate freedom. To love ourselves as we are, and then at best, to be loved as we are, which is what Roberto has just said. Too, it's so fundamental because we must allow people to see us as we are, so that we can be loved in our truth and our integrity, not loved for something or somebody that we're not. We never want to be putting on a performance of ourselves in this life. It's exhausting, it's untrue. To be oneself is, it's liberating, it's empowering. It actually invites others with whom we share life to do the same. When we're in the presence of somebody who is being completely authentically themselves, it's very hard for us to be fake or to entertain fakery. If there's a discord there, it doesn't feel right. It's like the frequency has been set and you can't break that because it's sacred. And I think once you see yourself for who you are, you can't unsee that. There's something so wonderful about seeing yourself as you are. And many people feel like if they see themselves as they are and they allow themselves to be completely themselves, that they'll be mortified. In my experience, it's quite the contrary. People often surprise and delight themselves when they soften into themselves. They don't even know how wonderful they are until they give themselves half the chance to see it.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
And that's I believe the path to self-confidence, and then nurturing that confidence just comes through gratitude and love of life.
Beautiful.
Amazing answer. Thank you.
The book is called Be Here Now, Finding Peace and Joy in the Present Moment. It's, as we've mentioned, it's so full of so much love and kindness, empathy and joy, and clearly the two of you really embody that. We do something called the 2-minute shower, and it's I know it's tricky because we have to keep our answers short.
Shower.
Yes, it is a short shower.
It's an environmentally sound shower.
This is true. We are saving the water for our plants, right? But yeah, it's sort of a one-word, if you can, answer, and we're going to ask both of you the same question. Do you want to go first, hon?
What's your own best quality?
That's you. I'm on it. That's silence. I love
I don't believe I have one.
Oh,
Come on.
Own best quality. Oh, I'm tolerable.
come on, Amore. Answer since he is. But
At times. Genuine.
There you go.
Perfect.
it's a very good one.
How about you, Meredith?
What is my best quality? The first thing that comes to mind is that I'm compassionate.
Yeah. That's
Always
clear.
being compassionate. Yeah.
Who do you admire?
Amore.
My amore, Meredith.
In sincerity, I'd like to return that. I really admire Roberto's nature, and it's very inspiring to live with somebody so sincere and genuine, and I value that. Of course, in terms of writers or philosophers, I've always loved the words of Rumi, Sufi mystic Rumi. I can relate to his thought processes and his love of the world. It's a very vivid and passionate love that's just so alive. And so, yes, I would say he's one of my greatest inspirations.
Okay, you can only choose one of these. Words or pictures?
Pictures for me.
I can't do it.
I
You
know,
must,
that's so
you
mean.
must.
That's so
can't
mean to
do
us,
it.
Meredith.
I know, so I'm going to be cruel here.
Can I say wictures?
Okay, that's good.
I've got one word for you. It's no. They can't be separated.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm going to fail that question willingly.
That's okay. We'll allow it.
Ah,
First thing
witches.
you've ever failed, huh?
What does your perfect day look like?
Every single day is absolutely perfect. For us, we wake up, just the sun seems to be coming up. We slowly get out of bed. Meredith makes the most wonderful matcha lattes. We have that with some chocolate, and we have a bit of a chat, and we just slowly go about our day. There will be some Meredith working in the studio. I'll be faffing about with my cameras. We like to have an early dinner, and we go to bed not too long after the sun goes down.
We go to bed really early.
Very gentle, very gentle. Oh, we would like to include a walk for our dog, Fenris Wolf.
Yes.
Very good.
And also to that, I would say adding a little drive in the 356 and a picnic would be pretty splendid. And we love to go and walk in the forest too. So say the drive was to the forest and the picnic was in the forest, I'd say that would be an 11 out of 10 kind of day.
Yeah, nice.
That's awesome. All right, your partner in one word.
Heavenly.
I had the same. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, but I think that's what brought you two together.
Definitely.
Wow. So beautiful. Roberto and Meredith, thank you for your time. I feel like, again, we could spend hours talking to you and just hearing about both of you, your lives, how you love, and you're truly an inspiration. And thank you so much for joining us today in the bathroom.
Well, thank
Thank
you
you for
both
having
so
us.
much, and thank you for your wonderful questions and your engagement with the book. It means a lot to us both, and we're delighted to have been able to speak to you. So thank you.
Thanks.
The book is Be Here Now. Get it.
I feel like we were just in the presence of like the most incredible, angelic, etheric, creative life force.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was just thinking magic happens.
Yeah.
That's magic, right?
That was magic right there. They are magical people. I mean, Meredith is... You don't meet a lot of people like Meredith. I've never met anyone like her.
Her ability to articulate her thoughts was incredible.
Incredible.
And Roberto's gentleness.
Yeah.
You've got to see the book. The book is really beautiful, and I was fair dinkum when I said it's going to be on our coffee table.
Yeah.
Because it's a one pager,
Yeah.
you know, and sometimes
Beautiful to look at
it
as
really
well, let
is.
alone what's inside. So,
Yeah, and it all feeds. It just feeds more thought and feeling and kindness, you know. So yeah, check it out. It's really good. I'm sure you get it wherever you get your favourite books.
Yep.
Be Here Now, and the serendipity of their meeting and that energy, and you know, yeah, not everyone gets to experience that, and you're so fortunate when you have something like that.
I mean, it's like a Nicholas Sparks book, isn't it? It's kind of like you hear it and you go, "What? Really? That happened?" But it is like something out of a romance novel.
Yeah, but yeah, no, just what a delightful chat. I hope you enjoyed it wherever you're listening, in the car, on your walk.
Be Here Now, finding peace and joy in the present moment. Meredith and Roberto. Beautiful. Thanks so much for listening today.
Yeah, we really appreciate your company. See you soon.